knew John was like successful or whatever, but I was like, I don't know why John's speaking at a fitness meetup, and I was like, I guess this will be cool. I don't know. And then like, yeah, John created the first ever run tracking app, and I was like, what? Like John never mentioned that. I know John and you for 2 years, never mentioned once.
Welcome to the intro, no need for introductions. All about the world and the world what we discussing. Where every single thought that we had came from something. So it's funny that we made it when we started here with nothing. Gotta open up your mind just to find out why. When you lost inside the dark, just gotta turn on the light. And no matter what you do, you never run from a fight. Because we fighting to be better and that's why we strive.
We got a long history of Bones in Motion to cover, which I knew you guys for a long time and you never even bothered to mention to me. And then we have your companies you have now, which are Fiesta and then Koya.
Well, Koya and then Fiesta.
Koya, okay, so that's the order?
So
okay.
Koya started in 2018, and Fiesta didn't start until 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, like October 2021.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Okay, that's the timeline. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. So how do you want to start this? Because we'll definitely start with Bones in Motion.
Yeah.
Where do we start? I mean, we
gotta jump in.
Where's the jump in point?
It's like 9/11.
9/11. Okay. that is the timeline, right?
Yeah. 9/11 hit, and then the company I was working for did a little layoff, like a lot of companies did right after 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
They made a pivot, and then Bones in Motion was born.
Okay. Was it because you guys were you both active runners, or were you a runner, or what was the reason?
She was active. She was training for a half marathon.
Okay.
And that was actually the impetus for it, because I'd come back and I'm like, okay, I have to do 5 miles or 10 miles, and we would go and plot that out on using the odometer in the car.
Oh, so you would drive the...
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
okay, gotcha.
on the streets. So, and
I'm like, there's got to be a better way. We were looking at using GPS for another company service.
Mm-hmm.
The name of the first company was Navteq, and so the idea was we came back from a retreat in Norway where we had a bunch of Werner relatives, so it was like a family reunion.
Mm-hmm.
And we were touring in Oslo, and noticed that we would stay at certain places during the tour longer. We had a 15-month-old at the time,
mm-hmm.
and it was difficult trying to just pacify her when everybody else is like trying to be quiet. We're in a museum, and then we go to an outside sculpture garden where we're like, okay, finally she can be herself,
mm-hmm.
and they're like, okay, it's time to go. And it's like, would have been nice to have been able to stay here longer.
Mm-hmm.
If we could have just made our own tour. It's these folks kind of do the same tour over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
What if we could do a location-based tour that was at your own pace?
Mm.
And so the idea was, let's figure out how we could use GPS to actually trigger what the tour guide would say,
mm-hmm.
tell you where to go next, and basically you'd be your own tour guide.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that became Bones in Motion was originally a GPS tour guide, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have those? I feel like they have those now, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well,
we would have been pioneers in that too.
I was gonna say. I was like.
Well, and even the other one was the idea of when you took photos to be able to put the location of where the photo was taken.
Like Instagram now.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Well,
you'd show a map, and then you'd have all these pictures, and then lines drawn from the picture to the map. So as you kind of looked at your pictures, that would light up on the map where they were taken.
Gotcha.
I mean, this is...
Yeah. So John's an innovator, so I think that's really the best place to start, is that he has always thought of ways to make things easier or simpler.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I can remember him saying, it would be really great to have a button that you pushed in the car and your seats would adjust to the last person that sat there.
Ooh, that's really
and they do that now. I mean, the car that we drive right now, you have one setting and a 2 setting and stuff like that. So he's always been thinking outside the box, and I think your passion for that kind of grew when you started working at IBM,
mm-hmm.
and you got a taste of putting your first patent together.
Yeah.
And since then,
he got the bug.
IBM is a patent machine, right? Yeah. So just the whole culture of working at IBM really. We, instead of going to eat lunch, we would all meet together, like a couple of us engineers, and we'd come up with new things to go patent and protect, because we were working on some pretty cool stuff at the time, and so we had an idea of where some of the future technology was going to. So we created patents around speech recognition, around wearables, around all kind of cool stuff. We came up with title bar menus. So now you're really familiar with when you drag a window on a Mac. Think about that title bar.
Yeah.
Well, we came up with a patent that would actually have that title bar shown, and when you to be draggable. But then when you moved your mouse away from it, it would hide itself, so you could have more screen real estate. So things like that.
You actually filed these patents?
Oh yeah, they were granted. All these were granted.
Who has these?
IBM has those.
Oh.
The ones we did at IBM belong to
Every
IBM.
time, John. We'll get into that. But like that's going to be a consistent theme on this podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Well, wait, did you get paid out for any of those?
Well, so the way IBM incentivized their engineers to do this, you could get to certain plateaus of how many patents you would get granted, and I was awarded the different plateaus as you went, and you get some monetary compensation, but more than that, it's just recognition within the company that, hey, okay, you're helping the mothership.
Absolutely. And then when we get started with Bones in Motion, who named the company? And like, why did you name it Bones in Motion?
I named it Bones in Motion. I liked.
We got a lot of flack on it too, though. Because of we did an image of a skeleton kind of running in Bones in Motion, and so I mean it was edgy back then.
Yeah.
Today it would be really good.
It was like an image, or it was like a GIF, kind of like an old like whatever.
Well, it went from like Cherie was saying, more of a skeleton thing, to then. If you just look at a route and you see a bunch of dashes that represent the route, we then kind of took more of a map-centric design element to create the Bones in Motion. So then the route kind of wove itself
into
around
like a
the word,
person
into the words Bones in Motion.
Oh, gotcha.
So so we kind of said, okay, let's take the name and then let's put a route in and out of the letters.
Gotcha. Okay.
That became the logo.
Can you summarize? We'll get into the company itself, but can you summarize what Bones in Motion is, and then we'll start back over from like day one, kind of a thing.
Yeah. So Bones in Motion was primarily a way to use a device you already had in your hand to be able to record your pace, your speed, your distance. While you're out doing any kind of outdoor activity. So the limitation was it uses GPS, so you had to have line of sight with the satellites to be able to then record those things. So and then we started doing things like auto detection if it was a bike ride or a run or a walk, and we would automatically classify it.
And I think the best preface or best thing to mention with that is that you guys were the first GPS tracking device for like for any mobile phone, correct?
Yeah, it was even before mobile phones had GPS.
It was that.
We were. That was one of the lessons we learned. Was like, hey, you know what? Sometimes it's great to have a good idea. But timing is everything.
Wait, so could you guys technically have patented like phone GPS then, or like
no, because we didn't design we didn't design the GPS chipsets or how all that stuff works. We just took advantage of the capabilities, the sensor itself.
Gotcha. Okay. At what point did you know that this could be like did it start off as a business, or did it start off like, this is going to be really cool, I'm sick of Cherie having to drive Cherie around?
No, it was a business. I mean, so I left the last company after 9/11. I was telling you that, and they said, hey, they made a pivot because of just economic changes post 9/11 into something that wasn't in my wheelhouse. So I decided, okay, this is actually a really good kick in the butt to get out and go do something, because I'd always wanted to do a startup. And so this gave me the impetus to do that. It was probably the third idea around GPS that we were kind of thinking about. The first one was a self-guided tour. The second one, we actually looked at being smart for RVs So as you're in an RV, do you remember that?
Yeah, kind of like an exit guide.
Exit guide. So yeah, you're in an RV. It's like, okay, what's at the next exit? And we could actually tell where you are, and we could tell where you were going.
I would actually like that today. Is that a thing?
And then we also went into, all the different markers that are all over the country, where it's like, hey, there's this really cool historical marker. We were going to take and digitize all that.
Very
so
cool.
as you're driving, you don't have to stop and go read it. You drive by and it goes, oh, there's a marker here, and boom, it would pop up and tell you what was cool about where you just were.
Very
that
cool.
company I think there's a company just got started about a year and a half ago.
Nice.
That's kind of mapping all that out.
Doing that, yeah.
You know, it took them 20 years after we came up with the idea.
Well, I think what's cool to mention is that while you're doing all of this, it's not like you're doing it. I mean, it would be difficult to create. I mean, I wouldn't know how to create a GPS tracker in a phone today, but let alone to do that in 2001, 2002. I mean, like, I can't even fathom the hardware and software difficulties of working with like what were they, Nokia flip phones? What were they again?
They were Samsungs, Nokias, Sanyos, Kyoseras. I mean, all these kind of went by the wayside. Some of them, Nokia was big back then, obviously. Brick form factors, flip phone form factors. I should have brought some fun toys. I could have.
I was going to say, we have a graveyard of technology.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I kept a lot of the phones just because, and each time we would develop, put Bones in Motion on that phone, it was very unique. So it wasn't like today where you create an iPhone app and it runs on all the iPhones. This was, you had to build it specifically for that phone because some had a display, some had different audio capabilities, and some didn't really work that well unless you held them in a certain. It was pretty crazy in terms. We ended up having probably 70 different versions of the app to support all the phones that we wanted to support.
Well, and I mean, you're dealing with like a 2-inch screen too. I mean, so you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but nowadays you can have like an app that's like half your screen, or it can be like a notification, or it's running in the background. But with this, was it your entire screen and you couldn't close it, or like would it just track while your phone's like you know what I'm saying? Like what, I don't even know how to ask that.
The use case, the whole reason why GPS was getting introduced into the phones was because of E911. E911 was a government thing that said, hey, you know what? Everybody's kind of starting to carry mobile phones with them. What happens when they dial 911?
Gotcha.
When you have a landline, obviously you know where the address is. Here it's like, okay, we need to give some kind of level of location when a 911 call comes in. And so the government was saying to all the carriers, okay, you need to have this capability. And the carriers were like, well, this is going to be expensive to add this capability. What are we going to get out of it?
Yeah.
And so the whole location-based services idea was kind of born out of that. It's like, okay, we're going to have to figure out how to monetize location on the phone. And we were just fortunate enough to be right in that space where it's like, hey, you know what? We can help you. We're creating this thing for runners that are willing to pay a monthly subscription. You know, different from today. Everything that was on the phones back then, there was a monthly subscription that would show up on your phone bill.
I kind of remember that. Yeah, like any extra thing that you like, especially like internet service. If you accidentally open your web browser,
Everything was like nickel and dime. It's like, which was fine for us. We were doing a rev split with the carrier.
That's right. You mentioned that. Yeah. Well, so what? When you say does that mean you were talking like with Nokia, with Samsung, or like who are you speaking with about this level of GPS?
So we talked specifically with Qualcomm. Qualcomm was making the chipsets that had the GPS capabilities, part of the handsets, and they also had a programming language that sat on top of their cellular chipsets. So it wasn't just GPS, but it was also cellular that Qualcomm was working on, and they had a language called Brew, B-R-E-W, and it's not very well known right now, but it was a very compact, small binary, fully functional, access to all the different sensors and things that were on the phone. So it ended up working out to be a great way for us to get out there. But however, we did it for Brew, and it only got us onto one of the carriers, which was Verizon at the time, because AT&T and Sprint, the other two major carriers, decided to go the Java route. So that was early Java days, right? So all this still predates iPhone and Android. But yeah, that's So we had to build apps for 2 different.
So you had to build for 70 different devices across 3 different carriers.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's it. Well, 2 different carriers technically. Well, 2 different code lines, but that's 140 possible. That's insane.
It was a lot, and we were doing. You remember Research in Motion, right? The BlackBerry.
Yeah.
So that was another. They actually had a really good GPS chipset in theirs, but they were more. Those phones were primarily being sold to businesses. Mm-hmm. However, their GPS was so well done from a accuracy perspective that we were recommending, hey, you should check out the BlackBerry, and the screen was actually bigger on the BlackBerry than some of these flip phones and things.
How do you guys even? I mean, because I feel like nowadays some of the startups are just like, I don't even want to launch on Android because it's too hard to do iOS and Android, and you guys are launching 140 different. Like, how do you? I mean, I feel like to where technology is today, I feel like that's an overwhelming thought. Like, how do you even go? This is what we're going to do for a business. Because obviously it worked out for you, but how do you even mentally wrap your head around? I mean,
there wasn't an option, right?
Yeah.
I think when you don't have an option, any other options, you do the one thing you can. And we actually built a prototype to show when we were raising money for Bones in Motion. We raised angel money. We never did get any VC money. But when we were showing it, there was a phone that Motorola built that was for construction workers. It was bright yellow and it was pretty bulky. And they needed to have location built into these construction phones. You had to know where the foreman was, or were they on site, or whatever. So there was some reason to have GPS early in that version of the phone than any other phones that were on the market. So we actually took advantage of that. Built the first prototype was on this construction-oriented phone, and used that as our test, to show everybody how this thing worked. And then we were told that the carriers were going to move quickly on this E911 thing, and that we should be launched by 2004. Now, we started the company in the late fall, winter of 2002. Worked on it all throughout 2003 on this prototype. In 2004, we were getting geared up, built on top of Brew, et cetera, and showcased that to Verizon, and some other people even had our early Nike meeting in November of 2004,
nice.
Showing, hey, look what you can do with this. This is pretty cool. And we're like now sitting on code that actually works really well. I mean, the accuracy had gotten to the point where it's like, okay, this is something people could trust, because that was one of the big things was, hey, somebody goes out and runs and it comes out and it's way off. Yeah. I'm not going to trust it. I'm not going to use it. So we had to.
Was Cherie doing the test runs, or what?
She was doing a lot of the testing. We had other people testing around Town Lake here in Austin.
Oh, cool.
So we actually set up tables and would give people phones to try.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty crazy.
Well, and you even ran with the governor.
Governor Perry,
and his entourage, and
at
Paul
the time,
Carozza,
yeah. Because he was a big runner, and Paul Carozza, who was
cool.
The founder of Navteq, he was one of our advisors. So yeah, we were able to get that. We tried to get it to Michael Dell, and he took the phone, but what we heard back from that was he put the phone on his dog and had the dog run around his property, and because he was paranoid about people and location,
knowing where he's at, or
anybody knowing where it was, more so than the governor. It's like, okay.
I mean, it's worth a lot more than the governor.
Yeah. So, but we really didn't, because his wife, Michael Dell's wife, was a triathlete.
Gotcha.
So we were really like, okay, hey, I think we got something for you.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then Kristen Armstrong also.
That's right. Lance's ex-wife, Kristen Armstrong, was
a huge runner.
And they were ATX. Huh? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Very. And when you say we, like early on, so like, were you two working together on this, and you had more engineers? Like, what was Cherie? What was your role?
Actually, I mean, it was done for me, inspiration, and then I was the sounding board, because at the time we had a baby. Like Kaylee was born in 2001, so she at the time was like three, and then
you had another kid,
and Karen and Courtney were 13 and 15 at the time, so 2 teenagers and a baby, and doing a startup, which is a child in and of itself, and
a half marathon,
and well, that was my, it was like, before I turned 40, I'm going to do a half marathon, so it was just something I was doing for myself. But yeah, so.
But no, wait, we had another guy that was helping. He was doing a lot of the coding. So I was doing all the design work and all the IP, because we filed all our IP early, like in the January of 2003.
So when you do that, do you personally need a lawyer? Or you already know what you're doing. You're kind of just like.
I lay it out, and then I present it to the lawyer saying, hey, can you put this into legalese to help wrap it?
Gotcha, okay.
But this is what I would write. So basically how patents work, you write a big description about what you're trying to patent, and typically they'll write claims. So the claims are what you're actually patenting, and the description is there so that, because the way you actually pay to get patents is based on the claims.
Gotcha.
And so we wrote up, we tried to cover everything we could in that initial patent, even though only maybe 5 claims were made in that initial patent. That patent itself grew to become a family of patents that when we were acquired by Adidas, there's probably 20 patents now that are all around that whole family.
Yeah.
Focused on, because it wasn't just about turning a phone into a mobile fitness device. It was like GPS smoothing algorithms, because you weren't getting, GPS was not super accurate, so we had to take into consideration what they call urban canyon. If GPS would bounce off of buildings,
gotcha.
Or it would even bounce off water if you're running next to water. And so there was all these different considerations and we didn't want you jumping around, because then that adds additional distance to your run. And people were running on well-established routes that they knew the distance on, so we had to be consistent there too. And so, the patents covered not just the social aspects of using the app, but also the technology and how it was built.
And what were those first few years like? Like when you have 100 users, do you have like 1,000 phones? Like what were metrics that you were tracking?
Yeah, so we brought on a team. After the first year, I brought on somebody to come and just run the company, Andy Graham. So he became CEO of the company, so I could focus on product. So he helped. He was also an early investor in the company, believed in what we were doing, and really wanted to get dirty, and get his hands getting on that too. So let me do the product stuff. Then we brought on 3 devs that were spread out. 2 in Half Moon Bay and 1 in Portland. Okay. And so we were already working remotely as a team. So early remote work.
You don't have Zoom. You barely have cell phones.
It was so funny to watch them code, because they would just leave a phone on speaker and all day. And then they would just be coding. You could hear the other person typing, and then somebody would just say, hey, I just made this change on line 53, and it's good. Okay, got it. And then that's it. And that was the bandwidth.
That's OG Zoom.
It was like old school.
Early Slack, actually, I guess, technically, yeah. Wow, that's crazy. And then, but how many users did you have do you have like a kind of a timeline of users, like 100 this year, 1,000 this year kind of thing?
Yeah, so we didn't, as I mentioned, the carrier said they were going to turn things on in 2004, but they ended up not turning things on until 2006.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we launched on Sprint too, not even Verizon, who we had been courted by for 2 years. Sprint came in at the last moment and said, "Hey, you know what? We're going to take you live." And so we went live in February of 2006, and then Verizon finally turned things on in the fall of 2006.
Gotcha.
Now, also, each one of those only turned it on with maybe 1 or 2 different kind of phones.
Oh man, yeah.
And unlike today, where everybody feels like they have to stay on the latest and greatest iPhone every time it's released, back then it's like, hey, I've got this flip phone and I don't need to upgrade for another 3 years.
Yeah, no, and the features weren't even getting that much better either.
No, it's like so the turnover rate to get, even though these handsets were out there, the only real people you were going to get are people that had been on that carrier maybe 2 years or 3 years with an older phone.
Gotcha.
And so we really started asking questions about, hey, would you, if you had this app, would you actually upgrade to a new phone? And we were surprised at the results. I showed you some metrics earlier. When we would go out to these expos right before a marathon or half marathon, so Cherie would come out to the expo with our daughters, hawking the Bones in Motion app prior to them going and doing a race. It was great for exposure. Because when you train for a marathon or half marathon, you're not ready to add anything new into that routine.
Like you're not changing your diet.
No, and you're not changing your phone, especially the day before you're about to go on a run. Yeah. So it was more of an awareness thing, but we would ask them a lot of questions. So we actually used that as a way to capture a lot of feedback.
And back then, people did not use they didn't run with their phone or anything like that.
Yeah. So. Yeah, there was no. Yeah, it wasn't until music started. Actually, music was like one of the earlier reasons why people would run with the phone. Right. And then when they found out about our app, then they go, oh, well, sure, I'll run with the phone. Then all of a sudden, the whole cottage industry of, these armbands to carry phones came up. And matter of fact, and I think I shared this with you before. It's like when we started to try to raise money, angels were cool. They got it. VCs were like, nobody's ever going to run with a phone. I mean, literally every door we knocked on, it was like, I don't know. And we'd go run with them. They would run with it, and they'd say, okay, well, let's go hook up the phone to the computer to go see the results. And I'm like, you don't hook up anything. It's already there. All your data is there. Yeah. It's like, what? It's like, yeah.
That's crazy not one of them put money in.
Which was actually, when we exited, it was actually a good thing. There you go.
Yeah, it works out. It works out. When you say, like, they found out about it, like, what marketing efforts besides going to races were you doing? Because you couldn't buy Facebook ads back then. How were people finding out about this?
So we also were smart about, there's two places that runners were going to online or in print. So we struck a deal with Runner's World magazine.
Okay.
Rodale Publishing, because they also had Bike World, and they had various different publications. And we created a white label version of Bones in Motion so that it looked like the whole Runner's World website. Gotcha. So when you went to the Runner's World website, one of the things was, hey, track your run. And you click on that, you create an account, you get a phone, boom, all the colors, the logos, everything looked like Runner's World. Okay. And then we did it for Roadrunner Sports, which was the #1 e-commerce site for runners. So they were based in San Diego. So we built something for them, and they were like, hey, we'd like to be able to track shoes, track the distance on shoes. So then we added the capability to say what equipment you were wearing. So then we could automatically track, and then they would get that information, and they'll go, hey, you know what, it's, you're 300 miles in, it's time to start thinking about getting another pair of shoes. Wow. So it was another way to get more commerce.
Very smart.
And then y'all also won the Navteq.
That was in 2005.
Yeah, and I think that gave you some publicity.
Yeah, so Navteq was a company out of Chicago, really big mapping company that became here, bought by, I think, Mercedes or BMW, and now they're used in a lot of the European cars. But that technology, they'd have a conference every year, the Navteq Global Location-Based Challenge. We won in 2005. We were the #1 app. Not only did we win our category, we won the whole everything, and that came with like a nice check. I think it was $100,000 worth of map technology. Oh, so back then,
and $10,000.
You had to pay. The map. There's not Google Maps, so you had to get these squares. So every location, when you were trying to map out your route, it was actually piecing together these squares.
Oh, gotcha.
And then it would be static on your phone. So we would show a static map with your route overlaid on top of it.
And you had to buy each of those squares from some company?
They were tiles. So you had to buy. You got charged for every tile that you were displaying.
It just sounds like there's so. Again, the conclusion is you guys had an exit, and that's awesome. But it sounds like there's just so many reasons you shouldn't have built this company. I mean, the concept is really cool, but like technologically, and you're buying maps, and you're like it sounds like a lot, honestly.
It's like anything, right? The less you know going in,
the
more likely you're able to go through it. But if you knew all this stuff, you would nobody'd probably do anything.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like you wouldn't have if you had known, like, oh, I got to buy the tiles, and then they're going to do this, and there's 70 phones. Like, that's ridiculous.
But think about all the technologies, right? So the shoe tracking capability, everything, because there was nothing else out there.
Yeah,
we had so many cool opportunities to take the platform that honestly we really never got to realize the full potential. And,
I'm sure, yeah.
And after the acquisition, Adidas probably used, maybe 20% of what the innovation that we had.
Gotcha. Wait, and we'll take a step back. So, like, in that 04, 06 window, what was that window like where you're – because I'm currently going through that now. It's not to that scale, but, like, I've been waiting for an enterprise deal to go live. It should be next week. I said that last month, too, for about a year now.
Yeah.
And you guys went through that for 2 years, but you have an entire, like, company riding on this deal, essentially. So what were those 2 years like where you're just waiting for Verizon?
It's like sitting on your hands, right? It's like – thankfully, we had a couple of wins with the Global Challenge stuff in 05. And we kept on having to tell our current investors, hey, the Verizons of the world are saying this, and they kept on moving. It wasn't like it was 2004 and then they said, oh, never mind, it's 2006.
Yeah,
it was more like it'll be in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
And it's like we were just hanging on, and that was. That was hard.
I think the journey itself was very much that roller coaster ride that I think all entrepreneurs go on. Yeah. So I mean, there are a lot of highs and a lot of lows. So
we had a lot of stuff that sustained us though, because we kept on going back and seeing the progress and seeing what we were able to accomplish.
Well, and I brought in that folder I was showing you, and I think that it really helped to keep a journal of the things that happened that were
good, positives,
because that's what we held on to. I mean, because like when we felt like we were at the end of our rope, I mean, something really cool like winning that challenge was really good, or we would get an investment in, or I think one of the coolest things that happened was when our investors, which were friends and family back then, they gave us a check. I think it's like $2,500 to go on our anniversary trip.
I think on a vacation. So
Yeah.
You need to go. You guys are about to burn out. Yeah. We're going to pay for you to just go away.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So I mean.
Did they get equity for that or no?
Did they?
Not for that. No.
That was separate. Yeah.
Like, we're going to pay for you to go away, but we want a percentage of the company.
But it was hard. I mean, I look back and I'm thinking, I have no idea how he did it with, we were in the midst of, I homeschooled. A lot of people don't know that, but I was homeschooling our 2 older daughters, and we had a little one at home. And I mean, and he was coming home, and he had, all of those responsibilities along with doing a company.
We ended up selling our dream home in the middle of this. So we came back from San Diego in 08 and in 98, and was living in our dream house for like 3 years. And we decided to do this company. And had equity in the house, so we ended up selling that and started renting a house. Went from renting a really nice house to renting another house to actually ending up in basically a 2-bedroom apartment for 5 of us.
For 3 months, yeah.
For 3
and that
months.
was when we were dealing with Adidas, because Adidas had said, "Oh, we're interested," and that was in July. So we thought, okay, we can do this for a month. And we put everything in storage. We had 3 containers, and we lived in this 2-bedroom apartment. And 1 month went to 2 months, and that was in 2008 when there was a
financial crash. And then it just
and then we had a letter of intent that we kept holding on to, and but they kept pushing things out, and they said, "Oh, it won't be until the next year." And I'm like, "Gosh, I've heard this so many times. I don't know if I can do it again."
They were the 3rd company to come that wanted to acquire us.
Was like Nike one of them too? I'm assuming. Or?
No, so Nike
Nike was not. As my youngest will say, she calls it the devil's check mark.
So we went to Nike, and Nike's got a beautiful campus, and we in 2004 there's I forget his first name, Johnson, quarter-mile track that they have there, and they said, hey, go take a run around the track and tell us what you get. And literally, I mean, it couldn't have happened any better. Starting right at the starting line, running around in the middle, in the second lane of the track, came around as soon as we crossed the finish line. 0.25.
Oh my God!
It was like,
were you nervous? Or
oh my gosh! Yeah, it's like come on, it's like come on, please be around
0.37.
Be somewhere between there. Like it just nailed it.
That's crazy.
And then we went. They have a trail that goes around the campus too, and they go, nobody ever. We don't even know how. It's like. So we showed them a map of going around their campus, and it's lots of tree cover and everything, but it worked great. And they're like, hey, this is cool. We maybe we'll get back to you. Maybe we want to license. Well, at the time they didn't say anything other than this is cool. When's it going to go live?
Yeah.
and we'll let you know. And so we left that day, and then we found out, like, maybe, a couple of years later, our patent didn't get granted until 07. So we filed them in 03, and so it took four years before the patents got granted. And it wasn't until we were at Adidas that we then noticed a correlation of all the IP that Nike did was basically done the days after we met them.
Oh, wow. But it clearly didn't get filed because it took years.
Yeah, they were behind us, but they tried to file. They did have no idea what our patents were, right? So they were just like, okay, we got to go patent up this place.
Wow.
And
dang.
We left a phone with them. They were right. We could see what they were doing
like
and everything,
movie.
but we thought everything was fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's cool, And they told us, hey, you know what? If you show up here, anything you show us is ours.
Oh, well,
unless you have it protected.
I guess that's fair. They did tell you.
And so we actually delayed our meeting because we needed to make sure we had a bunch of other stuff filed and things protected. So it's not like we didn't go there,
knowing they would fuck you over. Yeah.
So it's like, okay. And I guess I've always had it in for Nike ever since.
I mean, actually, I don't even know if I'm upset if they're like, we're gonna steal this if you bring it to us.
And not just our stuff. Whoever goes and pitches anything to Nike, it's like a known thing now. Everybody kind of knows about it. If you go pitch stuff to Nike, you better have your assets covered.
That goes back to the value and the importance of having patents. I mean, a lot of people will kind of put it off, but I think what John found out after working at Adidas was that Nike and Adidas have this goodwill towards each other in that they don't.
It's like it's a Cold War.
Right.
Oh, okay, because
unless
they're
they
like,
have to.
Okay, they're not like, we're not trying to sue each other.
Yeah,
Go,
well, they both have so many patents against the other one that as soon as one starts, the other it's just going to become ugly.
Yeah, for sure.
So they're like, hey.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how we found out. Because a lot of people who work at Nike go to Adidas and they bounce back and forth. So
I couldn't do that though. I'm a 3-stripe guy, so I can't.
You're loyal. Thankfully, that's why we're still together.
Hey, there we go, guys. There we go.
It pays off.
Wait, so when you were mentioning earlier, like you had, like you have this. Actually, can we show the binder really quick?
Yeah.
We got this binder here. Got a lot of stuff in it. I don't know. There we go.
Yeah.
Pages and pages of like success stories and all that.
Oh, ups and downs.
Ups and downs. Just like a trail,
It is, because
Did you were there? Cause it kind of ties into my question. So like, the question is kind of like, how did this help runners improve? Like the software, how to help them improve their runs, and then also tied in with that, were there like customer success stories that you guys kind of used as like that motivation to keep going?
Oh, for sure.
I think of Dean
Karnazes?
Yeah, because he ran with the phone.
Yeah, he's an ultra marathoner. I don't know if you know Dean.
Cool.
And he was running from...
He was doing 50 marathons in 50 days in 50 states.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so...
And he used yours for your phone for each... Wow.
Not everyone, so he decided to do something... We actually used him for something totally different, and so one of the other technologies that we thought about was, well, what value do we bring to a marathon? Well, when you have a loved one that's running in a marathon, it's one thing to be in the same city and you can go watch them and hopefully you can see them at this location, then you figure out how to scoot over to another location on the route so you can see them at least more than just one time as they run in front of you. Well, we're like, hey, we already know the location. We kind of got this cellular network thing. Why don't we just create a live tracking capability so that if they're running the course, any of their friends and family that aren't at the event, they can actually see the course. They can see where they are on the course and be able to cheer them on virtually. So we came up with that and started talking to different marathons, and they would turn on the live tracking capability for people that were using the Bones of Motion software to do that. Yeah. Dean finishes his 50 marathons in New York. His last marathon was the New York Marathon. The other ones were not all sanctioned marathons. He would just go out and run 26.
Yeah, because they're not going to be one every day.
Yeah, he would just run, but everything was geared towards the 50th one would be the actual New York Marathon.
Gotcha.
He finishes that and goes to see Letterman that night, and he just announces, "Hey, I'm going to run home." this is New York, and so he lives in San Francisco. So it's like, it's like, okay. So we kind of knew he was about to do something, and so Runner's World wanted to get on this. So we actually built a, it was like a Where's Waldo. We built a Where's Dean little widget on the Runner's World website, and it would show where he is right now, how he's progressing across the United States. And the funny thing is, other runners were watching Dean run back home, and they would meet him on the course,
like
and they would run, and they would run with him, and they would bring pizza. They would, because he would eat and run. I mean, he'd never stop, right? He was, I don't know how many miles he was covering every day. He finally got burned out in St. Louis. He got from New York to St. Louis, and so hey, you know what? I'm ready to go home. And so
he didn't know.
He really got. He stopped in St. Louis, which man, just the fact that he even got that far is just incredible. But it was cool because it really highlighted the whole live tracking thing. I don't even know much about live track. I mean, other than you can get on your phone today and say, hey. Where's my friends, right?
Yeah,
well, it's the same concept, but it was.
That's what I was saying. Is like as they're talking, I'm like, that technology is existent. I can see where all my friends are right now if I wanted to, if they had me back. I mean, it doesn't sound like no one adds me back, but if they had me back.
Yeah. Oh, and we would actually tell what. Not only where they are, but what's their current pace.
Wow!
So we would give.
I don't even know if you can do that now.
We would give you all that information. It's like, hey, because that was interesting, right?
Yeah. And then if you were running a trail that you weren't familiar with, it would kind of tell you where the bathrooms were, where the water stations were, and stuff like that.
All on a Nokia phone.
You could. Well, because you could actually see it. So we actually created a map editor, and so the idea was, hey. Go map your favorite route in your town, and here's some icons to identify where like what Cherie was saying, where the restrooms are, where the water fountains are, and then we started getting into things like, is this a safe neighborhood? And then to be able to mark. So if you're running in a different city, you'd know, hey, you know what? I'm not going to run there because it looks like the locals here are saying stay away.
Gotcha.
So we started thinking, you know what? This is another business all by itself. The layer on top of a map that would be valuable to bicyclists, to runners, to walkers. That's a whole nother layer. And
100%.
At some point we thought we'd be able to sell that, but we never got to that part of the business
I feel like
model.
all of those, like that you can sell that to Zillow, like based on like their neighborhoods. I mean, now they have that, but like they didn't.
They have a walkable index.
Exactly.
You just take our stuff and be able to plug it right in and say, hey, here's all the people that run in this place.
And didn't y'all have something where you could run with somebody at the same time?
We were working on that.
Hospital. I mean.
Yeah, the idea was you're running in San Diego, I'm running here in Austin.
Yeah.
And we fire them up at the same time. And as we're running, we had prompts. And so when you would get to whoever would get to the 1 mile prompt first, it would say, hey, you're 6 seconds ahead.
Oh, wow.
Or 6 seconds behind.
And it was a simultaneous
run? So you could be running against somebody else somewhere. And then we thought about, well, is that fair? Because let's say you're running, in Denver, it's mile high, it's thinner air. So then we started thinking about having to do a difficulty index.
Like an algorithm for it.
Yeah, so we came up with a difficulty index so that you could actually have a more valid comparison for your 5 mile run and their 5 mile run that was just run on a beach. Or, now you have the sand you have to deal with. That would be another difficulty. So all those the patent was wrapped around creating the difficulty index for that, and that never saw really the light of day outside of what we were doing again.
Gotcha.
And when you went to file for the patent, it wasn't as easy as just filing for the patent because you had to defend the patent. Yeah. It wasn't granted right away. So
gotcha.
we had to go to DC.
Yeah. So having a good patent attorney makes all the difference in the world also, because our patent attorney went with John to DC to fight for the patent.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And what are you building all these cool, respectfully, not necessary to the core, like very cool that you can do difficulty index, but like this not necessary. So why are you guys adding all of these cool features? Are you are you building up for an exit? Are you just like, this is really cool, we should have this? Like what's the point of this?
It was we were trying to take typically a solo event, you go out for a run by yourself, and be able to have some way that you compare with other people. It was like an early it was a social network for runners.
Gotcha.
So we built a website that would have all your stats. It would have all your routes. People could then befriend you or follow you, be able to see all the things you've done, comment on what you did. We actually then built in the ability to auto blog when you went and did a run.
Which we can now see today. And some
Exactly.
We created blogs that would automatically get out there, and so it was about just sharing your accomplishments and be able to have other people cheer you on and keep you on whatever path you're on in terms of your fitness goals.
But I mean, from a business perspective, was the motivation for you guys to just make a really, really cool running app, or did you want to have an exit, or like what was the passion behind everything, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to have an exit. We didn't know. Actually, we hadn't really thought too much about the exit part because we really thought we had a good idea. And we really thought it was going to blow up and become a really big thing. And so our thought was, hey, you know what? If we just have, X number of runners paying us $5 a month, man, that's a great business. And so the business model was really good in terms of being able to do it. But then we had to figure out how do we keep it sticky? How do we keep people? User-generated content is the most sticky content out there. So it's like, hey, let's give them more tools. Let's let them edit the map. So now they're taking ownership of the map. Let's let them blog because it's their content. So we try to give them more and more ways to, enhance the experience. Yeah. So they felt bought in, and they became our ambassadors. They became our salespeople on the. Who better to help try to sell our service than another runner that's your friend saying, "Hey, you need to get this app."
So you were doing it for sure for the B2C side. You're trying to make the biggest B2C running app possible. And then, okay, so you're charging $5 a person.
Yeah, we started off at $9.99.
Yeah. $9.99, okay.
That was a little bit that was steep. That was early adopters got it, though. Yeah. In reality, we were only selling the service from as I indicated, we started in 2006. We were acquired at the beginning of 2009, so let's just call it the end of 2008. So we were selling for about 2 years, and we were laying the groundwork. So by the end of or the middle of 2007, we had AT&T as well. So that was so we had the 3 major carriers here, and then it was just about growth. It was like we knew people were going to take a while to be able to get the right handsets that could run our software. So we weren't too concerned about how many people. We were more concerned about getting carriers, getting carrier partnerships.
Well,
that was the
like
most
new markets essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
So because we had to keep on moving because once we had things in place, it's like, okay, don't need to touch that. Let's go move on to the next market. And there were different phones. There were different language because we had to translate it into different languages. We weren't just U.S. It was Spanish and other.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. So we went into Mexico with one of the carriers in Mexico. We were in Canada. We had to translate it into Canadian.
Wait, what does that mean?
I don't know.
Okay, I was making a joke, but
I was like,
am I not? Okay.
No, Rogers, Bell, those 2 carriers up there. Then we went into Europe and into the UK, and then down into Spain. So there's more. We already had Spanish, and Germany, T-Mobile, and then we were about to. I think we had SK in South Korea, and we're about to light up Japan with NTT Docomo.
Wow, you guys went crazy with this. That's
and so we were kind of thin. We weren't going really deep in any particular market. But at the same time, we also wanted to be first in those markets. So that was the other driver. It was like, because these carriers, they're not going to, for our understanding after working with Verizon was, hey, you know what? We don't really want to be dealing with a lot of mobile app companies. It's like, we'll pick maybe one running app. And if you're not the running app, you're not gonna you're not gonna get in. So it's like it was like an arms race. It's like we need to get out there.
The running app for Verizon, the running app for Sprint. Yeah. That's so crazy. Okay, I didn't even. Wait, what does that mean?
We have there's a I don't know if you can Google it, but there's it probably isn't out there anymore. But there was a Spanish commercial with our app in it. So they're talking about 3 different apps. It's a Verizon app in Spanish, and they're talking about in Bones in Motion, and it's like
we can pull that up.
Totally.
That's why we have a video podcast for sure. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wait, so I lost my. Oh yeah, so when you're charging $5 a month, like what? Obviously, you have fixed costs. Like
that was a no-brainer though. $5. That was like a set it and forget it. $5.99. Set it and forget it at that point. Yeah.
What like I don't know how to ask this. Like what like you have the tiles, for example, right? So like what?
Yeah. So what was our
before you're paying your employees? Like what are you getting out of that $5.99? I guess.
I mean, the margins were probably still in the. I remember there's no Amazon back then, no AWS, no cloud services. We had all of our services. Too. We had servers. Initially, they were running on Rackspace. We moved them up to Dallas. Blue, I can't remember the name of the ISP at the time, but that we were hosting it. That was actually fairly expensive.
Yeah.
Running your own, because every time you had to stand up another rack to be able to support, and that was but. I think the cost of goods for all this stuff was probably in the 50 to 60% initially, just because we didn't have enough runners at the time, and so I would say probably 50 to 60%.
Gotcha. Okay.
And which should be about 80. I mean, 80 or higher for software.
And what like how much are you guys doing in revenue per Adidas? Like, are you doing like a couple 100,000? Like, what is the number there?
No. I mean, because it's also a rev split, so that $5.99, we got a 40-60 split. We get 60, the carrier gets 40.
Gotcha.
So that even chopped it down a little bit more. So
well, pre-split though, I guess we could say.
Oh, like, yeah. So look at maybe 100,000. We were moving towards almost at 100,000 at paying.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Gotcha. So like.
And that was only for a couple of months. I mean, so that was right at the tail end.
Yeah, it would have just kept going up.
It was slowly going up.
So you're doing like $600K in revenue pre-cuts and everything like that per month, something like that.
Yeah, that seems like that's high.
We can go ballpark.
Yeah, I don't remember the numbers. Yeah. So
I just know everything that we were getting, at the end, we were pouring anything we got was back into the business. So and there was also a lag in terms of when you got money from the carrier. It wasn't like immediate.
Because they're paying you. Yeah, you're not. Oh yeah.
So there's all these other factors that were going into it.
Yeah. But you mentioned the last time we spoke about this that there was like some other side benefits that, like, you mentioned that it was really hard to cancel. Like, you had to like call in or something like that. You couldn't just push cancel.
Yeah.
Like.
That wasn't us.
And you
that
had
was
to call
just
the phone bill
that was carrier.
Because of the carrier.
That was the carrier. It wasn't our. We're more consumer friendly.
Well, I know you wouldn't do that. I'm saying like that's the benefit of working with an old school Verizon is like it's very.
And
hard
also
to cancel.
at the time, so you got to remember the other thing that happened in 08. Well, actually in 07, if you're savvy in your mobile history. In September.
Jab at me, I don't know.
In September of 07, the iPhone was launched.
Oh, actually, I kind of know that. Yeah.
So we had like literally.
You would have
We had we didn't go on the iPhone right away
because
the iPhone, when it launched, didn't have an SDK. You couldn't build until 08. The next year, it was decided, hey, let's make it so that you can actually have an ecosystem, an ecosystem of apps running on the iPhone, and so. We were thin in terms of our resources. We still only had 5 people at the company, and we made a decision. Hey, let's because we were in the middle of, like I said, Adidas was the third company that came after us. We were in negotiations with the Weather Channel the year before.
Gotcha.
And so we were not wanting to raise any more money because we got a potential exit on the table.
How much did you raise at that point? Sorry,
2.7.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
And we didn't want to give away any more equity, and so because we had this potential, and it was a great opportunity with Weather Channel, and that thing was basically redlined and ready to go in the fall of 07. So the iPhone launches in the fall of 07. We're about to just sell the company by winter, by Christmas, and instead of getting the call saying, hey, it's a done deal. This is how serious. Instead of getting that call, we got, hey, it's a family-owned business, which we know, the Weather Channel. The owner wants to sell the company, and all corp dev is off the table.
Dang. Yeah.
And then the year before that, it was Brunswick.
Yeah, but that was
that wasn't.
She was mentioning every Christmas you guys had like
we had
3 Christmases in a row.
We had coal for Christmas, coal for Christmas, three Christmases in a row.
Yeah.
But think about it. So we didn't want to spend any more in the business, and then so we come out of that gut punch, right, and go into 2008. It's like, okay, we probably need to start thinking about raising again. And literally in the spring of 2008, we had our first conversation with Adidas at Adidas.
Y'all were invited to a meeting to represent that other shoe company.
Because we were trying to get money. He was also an angel investor.
Right.
So he said, hey, I can bring you into a meeting with Adi, and if they like you, I'll invest in your company.
Oh, nice.
And he was going in to promote his shoe.
He had a soul. He had an insole. He wanted to.
So he wasn't trying to get you guys purchased by them. He was
no.
Yeah,
he was just bringing.
No, he wanted to validate. He wanted to validate that what we had was cool. And then he'd put money in. So I'm like, hey. So we went up there. He actually pitched. We sat there in the room. He pitched the company. He pitched Bones in Motion in front of Adidas. We answered some questions. And we walked away from that meeting like, that was the weirdest meeting.
But so you guys didn't really talk?
We were there, but we really...
Are you there in the meetings too?
No.
Okay,
I'm mothering.
Okay, no, that's what's okay.
And so we had that meeting. It's like, okay, I wish he had, would have let us speak a little bit more on our product. But hopefully he's going to invest because it looked like maybe thumbs up. Although the guy that flew in from Germany just got there that morning and he was asleep in the corner. It's like, oh, great. It's like, God, we remember that. It's
nice.
And then a couple of weeks later, we get a call saying, hey, we're interested. We're going to fly down and come visit you guys. And what? It says, what about the angel investor guy? Oh, we didn't like his stuff. So it circumvented him.
You guys didn't say a word.
And then ended up obviously not taking any money from him. But then that put into our minds, okay, now we have another opportunity here. Let's don't raise anything. And so it was like running on.
Yeah, that goes back to answering your question. What kept them going was that there were like these little interim things happening. And it's like, you'd kind of get off of that roller coaster and you start kind of going up. And it was just, we were just in survival mode.
But we had the two guys that came down became incredibly great friends with us, and just loved the interaction that we had with them. And they were not the contractual people; they were the innovation team for Adidas. And it's like, oh my God, this would be a dream job, And so we couldn't wait for that to happen. And unfortunately, they were trying to also acquire another company at the same time. We didn't know that until later. And in Germany, everybody takes off in August. And so we were trying to get this deal done before August of that year, of 2008. Well, they come back after August, and it's September, and that's the financial crisis. And everything is... everything is off. And they said, hey, we'll talk to you, like Cherie was saying, we'll talk to you at the beginning of the year. And we're like, yeah, right. And it's like, what are we going to do? We were like... Everybody's kind of got side gig jobs now. We're trying to figure. Because it wasn't pulling in as much as we needed it to do to even make things happen at that point.
I think you were like, he was getting like $5K a month. I mean, to pay for mortgage and sole provider. Because I'm not working. So I mean, it was really lean, and at that time we were living in that apartment.
Yeah, we sold our house. We emptied out our IRAs. And then we just racked up a bunch of unfortunate credit card debt.
So this whole time, like, do you at any point, like, kind of go like, all right, John, we need to...
We had that conversation a lot.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, we have it now too. So it's like, So it's really interesting because when he's like on top of the world and I'm down, we're able to kind of balance each other out. So we really do well together. But I think it really goes back to determination and grit and perseverance. I mean, you have to believe in what you're doing. And I mean, I believed in what he was doing. I saw the benefits, and then people that were running with it saw the benefits. So to give up.
I'm still passionate about it, even though I'm now advising a company that's doing another running.
Exactly.
I love this space.
Well, especially when you have like, maybe the revenues weren't covering every bill you needed to, but if you have 100,000 people using it, I mean, that's a lot of people. Like that's a big.
Well, compared to, it sounds like a lot, but then compare that to 2 years later after we get acquired by Adidas, Map My Fitness gets acquired, and they had in the millions.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we were just scratching the surface. We were like so early, and they were like one of the first apps on the iPhone.
Yeah.
And then later, another company that Adidas acquired was Runtastic, and they had over 100 million users.
And we'll get to the Map My Run stuff here in a little bit, but I want to cover the actual exit with Adidas, because Map My Run stuff is the other good conversation too. So how does that work? Do they just like send you guys over like a term sheet and you sign it? Like what is the process?
Yeah, so we actually we actually got a broker help us an M&A to do M&A, and that broker helped make sure we were not getting in trouble. Local firm here in Austin counseled us on what we needed to do, looked at our contract, helped us redline it. The contract we had prior to September 2008 was really good. Like, whoa, this is like, okay. I mean, not like retire and go live on a beach good, but it was a really good contract. It was like very good. And they halved that after
Gotcha.
and it's like at that point we haven't raised any money. We're like, okay, we have to do this. This is something that's
both you and Andy were like, okay, we can't keep going down this path. So
We
I
need
mean, third time we've been in this situation.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's a deal. A deal is a deal.
And some of the things that they talked about, the roles that we could play inside of a big company like Andy was like heading up mobile for the brand in Germany, and I was they created a new role for me called Innovation Explorer. So I got to go and figure out the intersection of sport and technology. It's like go
that sounds
for
like
it.
a role like a billionaire would give his like grandson that he's like, I don't know.
But the thing is, they made it up.
Yeah.
It's like they said, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
you're like showing up late to work. And I don't know. Yeah.
He was like a kid in a candy store. I mean,
like
he loved his job.
Yeah.
But what did you even do? Like, did you just kind of like?
Seriously, it was going out and talking to other companies, universities, finding out what new technologies were coming out there, researching Bluetooth, researching anything that could be brought into wearables, like put into shoes or shirts, your apparel.
Yeah.
Creating digital experiences around all that stuff. So it was pretty cool.
And when you guys were selling the company, like how much of the patents that you personally owned were kind of attributed to that exit number?
It was, well, that's a good question because
Adidas owns the patents now, right?
Yeah, everything got assigned to them.
Yeah.
And then I continued to work with them on building out the family, right?
Yeah.
And plus more patents that we did when we were there. That weren't even running related. So we ended up still creating more IP for Adidas, which was great. I mean, got to know the corporate IP folks really well at Adidas. Nice. It's hard to put a number on it because I just know whatever it was, they probably got 100x.
Oh no, for sure.
On the value because they ended up taking that. And they played nice, right? So they're like, hey, if you're an independent software company, creating some cool stuff that violates the IP, that's fine. Go for it. But as soon as any of those companies got acquired by a competing shoe company or apparel company,
oh, for sure.
Boom.
Yeah.
Drop the hammer on them.
And that's the great transition. So we both know Kevin. You know Kevin very well. Map My Run, Map My Fitness was the original name, right? Acquired by Under Armour for like $140 million, and so when I first found out was a few months ago, we were all sitting in a room. John was the speaker for this fitness thing, and I knew John was like successful or whatever, but I was like, I don't know why John's speaking at a fitness meetup, and I was like, I guess this will be cool. I don't know. And then John created the first ever run tracking app, and I was like, what the fuck? Like John never mentioned that. I know John and you for 2 years, never mentioned it once. But then we're talking, and Kevin Callahan, the founder of Map My Run's in the room, and they sold for like 140, 170 million, whatever it was. And he starts talking about how like he actually he lost like 60 or 70 million because, they basically like had to defend the patent. Maybe he lost like 80 million because he had to defend the patent. And then I kind of raised my hand. I was like, wasn't that John's patent? He's like, yeah, that was John's patent. So he was the reason that you're probably able to start he was able to start the company, but you're also the reason that he lost like $80 million. So
I don't know if he didn't personally lose it, because I've had this conversation with him, because I really felt bad about, when you make it personal, it's like, it wasn't personal. It was, and I did have that question. I had that conversation with Kevin. I said, Kevin, we're friends, right? He goes, yeah. Because, yeah, we're friends. And because we actually, back in like in 04, 05.
Yeah, y'all talk.
So Kevin was working with this other gentleman called Jeff Calixon. He was here in town.
Okay.
And Jeff was doing something similar in terms of map editing for running. He was a runner. And they found each other online. And I was like, we were building the mobile app. It's like, hey, you know what? It'd be probably pretty cool if we could match what we're doing on the mobile side of things with the back end. And I said, yeah, sure. So why don't we talk about how we could work together? So we had a coffee to talk about how we could acquire Map My Run back in the day.
Yeah.
And it was, it was a real conversation. I think within the next week or so, I think Kevin told me, an angel investor they've been talking to decided to write a check. He was an avid athlete as well. And that gave them the resources they needed to just go build everything themselves and not have to go do the connection, which was probably, at the time, I would have loved to work with those guys, but we really couldn't afford to pay them.
Bring a whole company. Yeah.
And that brings up another point, is that they had a whole team. I mean, it's John, Andy here in Austin, and their 3 developers. It's just the 5 of them. So they can't go out and do stuff, and it really does make a difference in who you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
to bring in those angel investors and stuff like that. I mean, if you have the right connections, things go a lot quicker.
If you're able to be like a full-time CEO, you can do so much more than like, I'm kind of doing product, I'm kind of doing this, like, so,
Yeah, and then also if you have someone who is an innovator, who's always thinking about how to make things better, you end up going down all these different tangents, which, John is. I mean, so that's why they kept adding things to it. It's like, oh, we can make it better. We can do this.
I'm the same way. I'm the worst at like focusing on fundraising, because I just don't care that much, honestly. It's like I want to build a better product, a better team, and I'm just like, oh yeah, we need to raise money though. So that's
100%.
Necessary evil.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're always, even now we're reeling him in.
It's been so freeing though, because we've kind of, as a company, when we get to the Koya thing, we've kind of switched our whole mindset from going after capital raise that's dilutive funding into just using our customers to help fund the company, which I think is a much smarter. If you can do that, that's a much better way to go.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. I guess a couple more things here, and then we'll switch over. But why did you decide to step down as CEO? Is because like you just kind of weren't passionate about it? You wanted to focus on the product itself? Like,
I needed to focus on the product. Yeah. It was my idea, my genesis, and having somebody that's managing the fundraising and all that stuff was really important. Yeah. Could I have done both of them? Probably, but I probably wouldn't have been able to do them both well.
Yeah. I was going to say also know your skill set. I mean, there are people who manage and go out and fundraise.
Andy had been a CEO before. Yeah. So this wasn't his first rodeo.
Right.
So
was it an easy transition for you, like, I could be CEO?
I mean, he and I were really good friends. Before this.
Was it like a 5-minute conversation, or like how long did it take you guys to be like, you're CEO?
Well, he came back. No, he didn't come on. He came on as CEO.
Oh, gotcha.
He was like, hey, he went on a bike ride, and he was a motorcycle ride. And something just kept on hitting him in the head, like a thought. It's like, when you get back to Austin, you need to see how you can help John. That just kept on hitting him. And so when he came back, he goes, hey, I don't know what it is, but I need to ask you, what can I do to help you? And it's like, well, you could help me.
You could be the CEO.
You could help me do this.
You can help me a lot, actually.
And it came with, and he ended up being one of our larger investors too. So
cool. Very cool.
Put in a lot of his own money.
Very cool. Well, sweet. We'll get to. We're already like over an hour in, so we'll get to the. They got the. Actually, I gotta get to some of the patent stuff too. Oh, yeah. So, how many times has Adidas brought you in to like in court to defend the patents?
So 3 times.
Okay. Is that like? Is it ever like an email defending thing, or you have to you go in person?
I get deposed, so you get interviewed by the opposing legal counsel.
Gotcha.
That's happened twice. The other one has just been email.
Okay.
And they settled before they went to court.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's the first one was nerve-wracking. That was it was Under Armour, and so there was just a lot of questions that were like they were just trying to. I mean, that's their job. They're trying to figure out how did you really come up with that idea? I mean, but you're literally sitting there in court going against the Under Armour attorneys defending your patent against Kevin McAllen's company that they just purchased. That's the scenario? In this scenario, it's not even in court. They have cameras, but they're in a deposition room, and you're just getting asked questions by the opposing legal team. Yeah. And they're just trying to find out holes before they go to court. Do they have a case? Gotcha. Is there something they could do? And they would bring in their experts, and their experts would give them ammunition to then ask me, well, wasn't there already, GPS in cars? I mean, you know what I mean? They would just kind of go down the path of trying to figure out, because there was some cool stuff that hadn't been productized or brought to light, but none of it was in our space. Gotcha. But you could infer. So that's what that interesting went around that. And then I guess last question here, like what if all apps today are using the same technology that you kind of started, as far as like running goes, running apps? Yes, I mean it's everyone. I mean, honestly, the way we crafted the first patent was, hey, if you use a mobile phone for fitness, and we got that patent. Okay. Oh, so like, am I breaking? Am I breaking them? No, you're not. Not unless you go create an app that. If you start if you use GPS to calculate. Oh, they use GPS pace for fitness. Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. On a mobile phone. Yeah. So like Strava, for example, is using your original patent. Yeah. Even the segments, we have that patented. So which is a really popular thing for Strava. Oh, when you're able to push it, yeah, gotcha. Okay. But they're independent, so they're not, they're not owned by pretty big independent.
Well, and also, but they're not. Is also, I mean, they're really not focusing on that technology anymore. They've kind of moved on.
Well, no, they still have Adidas running, but they took Runtastic and rebranded it.
Right.
So yeah.
So if Adidas wanted to, they could sue them and bring you into court, and you'd have to defend it and everything like that.
Yeah, but you were just sent something a few months ago, and that he might have to go to court. Yeah,
another brand.
Okay, I'm assuming they pay you to go to court and all that stuff.
That would be. I wouldn't do it unless I was paid.
Okay. Fair enough.
That would be his payment for the patent.
Fair enough.
Because we looked at. Okay, so just real quick, I actually crafted in my acceptance letter for going there. I'm like, this is. Yeah, it's great. You're giving me a great salary, and the earn out and all that kind of stuff that happens in an exit. I had a clause in there that says I'd like to get 5% of any licensing that comes out of the patents.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
And I showed that to the team, and there's like,
no, we're not going to mess this deal up.
You are not going to mess this deal up. This is going to drag everything out. And he was right, because like I said, I became really good friends with the folks in the patent side of Adidas. They said they would never have signed that. Gotcha. But I don't know. I wish I would have liked to have tried.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess to conclude with this section of the story, are you happy with the journey and everything you went through and all that?
Yeah, because one of the really cool benefits, I don't know if you've heard the saying, more is caught than taught. So our daughters, Cherie was telling you they were 13, 15 or something. They were in their teenage years. They kind of went through this ride in their own as an observer, and they could see mom and dad kind of going through this and all the highs and lows. And I'm thinking, man, they're going to be like scarred for life, and they're never going to want to do anything startup related. Yeah. And lo and behold, they just got such a thrill out of seeing that entrepreneurial side of what we were doing, that they just had that inner urge to want to become entrepreneurs as well. So cool. We've been really fortunate to have them as co-founders in Koya.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up too when you mentioned the 13, 15-year-old thing when they're like helping at the race. I was like, what a cool like peek into entrepreneurship. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, and I would say it's kind of like a lot like childbirth. You forget about it after it happens.
Yeah.
Because we were laughing. I'm
like, it's so beautiful.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was like, oh gosh. I said I would never do this again, and here we are doing it again.
Yeah.
But but I do think that you do learn a lot when you go through something like this. So
yeah, you learn your limitations. That's
for sure. Yeah. And did you guys? Because so Koya, what year did Koya start?
We started in November of 18. Okay. I started in the summer by myself, kind of getting things like just the corporate stuff, setting up the C Corp and all that stuff, and also talking to all the other co-founders, Cherie and Karen and Courtney, about, hey, you know what? No surprise, but the first main thing we're going to do is create IP around what we're about to go do. Right. So we actually, together put together the first patent for Koya, even before we had any designs, really, hardly. It was all around discoverable messages. So we actually, that patent was awarded.
Oh, wow.
Like literally 2 years later. So it was really fast. It's discoverable messages, and it's based on different criteria. One of them being location. So it's the location component.
Interesting. Okay.
My first patent.
Nice.
Karen and Courtney's first patent.
There you go.
And what patent is that for you? Was that for you?
It's over 60.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, what a cool experience. I mean, beyond the 13, 15-year-old thing, like now they're like filing. I've never filed a patent. I don't know. It's just like what a like an acceleration you have to like building your startup. You're like, yeah, we're gonna do IP first. Like no one does IP, So it's like you guys get it out right off the bat. So we have an 8-year time gap though. So like year 2009-ish, 8-ish selling the company, and then this is 2018. So are you working at Adidas that entire time, taking a break? Like what was the journey there?
Yeah. So I joined them. I thought, maybe I'll work through the earnout because they held back some of the funds until you're there 2 years. So there was a drop after 1 year and another drop after the second year, and I was having so much fun. It's like,
he really was. I loved the security. I mean, it was kind of nice after going through that.
Yeah, and they let me stay in Austin, even though my team was in Germany and in Portland, and then I had another part of the team that it was in Germany. So I got to travel back and forth between Germany and Portland, and got out of the hot summers in Austin, which was
they're paying for it now, not you.
Paying for all this stuff.
Well, and remember, he's traveling a lot during this time because this will play into Koya. So.
Yeah, I'm on the road a bit because there is no Adidas. There's not an Adidas office in Austin. And so that happened 2009 until basically the fall of 17. So in the fall of 17, the group I was in, there was about 80 of us. Digital Sports they disbanded the group and said, hey, if you want to stay with the brand, you're going to get a simulator in other areas of the company, and but John, you would have to either come live in Portland or live in Germany and find something in one of those locations. Yeah. And at the time, we had our third daughter, who was 15 months when we started Bones in Motion. She's now a junior in high school. Yeah.
15 years old.
Yeah. And it's like, we're not going to move. We're not going to. Yank her up in the middle of Virginia, as a junior in high school.
Yeah, and then the other two, one had been living in Detroit and the other one had been in La Jolla, California. Both had moved back to Austin. So we were all here in Austin.
Yeah.
So
for us
to
leave, it didn't make any sense. So I said, hey, you know what? Thanks. I had a year non-compete that started in like the beginning of 18. So that was when I think my last day at Adidas was March 31st, 2018.
Yep.
End of that chapter. There you go. And then, so what made you want to build Koya, and like, what is Koya?
Okay, so March 31st was my last day in 2018. My birthday in 2018 is February 14th, so my birthday is coming up.
Oh, there you go. Valentine's Day. I think you told me that. Yeah.
So one of the things we do as a family is whoever's birthday it is, they get to pick where they want to eat, and it's kind of that kind of thing. And so we were having a birthday dinner, and they knew I only had like another month and a half of working at Adidas. And like, hey, Dad, what are you going to do next? And I'd been thinking about it because, March 31st is coming up. I'm like, hey, I think I have another startup in me, but I'm only going to do it if everybody's on board. And not only on board, but we all work together.
So you push them to get on board on your birthday. So
on my birthday.
Really
but then,
fair.
well, so that's only part one, right? So a successful startup, you can't just have a bunch of people say, okay, I'm in the startup.
Of course,
we had to come up with something that we were all going to be equally passionate about, too. So we, in the process of having that dinner, kind of talked about different ideas.
And because he was traveling so much, and the girls at the time were, Karen was a humanitarian photographer, so she was traveling all the time.
Like 70%.
And Courtney was at that time traveling with her as a storyteller, so she was doing copy and stuff like that. They were working for a global...
They were like the dynamic duo for marketing and communications, global marketing and communications.
Right.
Very cool.
And so all of them miss those like small in-between moments of relationships, a friend getting engaged or a breakup or whatever it might be, or a birthday. And so, like, he was in Germany for his birthday one time, and the girls wanted to send him a drink at a bar, and we looked at trying, how do you go about doing it? And
there's no way,
No, it wasn't easy.
You call the bar?
And, or a friend breaks up, and to be able to call because of the time zone difference and stuff like that.
Send them a meal or something.
So that was kind of the impetus behind it, was a pain point that they were all experiencing.
Because because they were traveling so much, we would, at one time we actually got them, they were going to stay in this hostel or something, and we bought them a room at the Marriott in Hong Kong.
Nice.
And
so
it's
cool.
like, hey, instead of going to a hostel, we got you, go to the Marriott. As an example of little things you could do when you can't really be there.
And that's something, as a family, we always did. When John would travel, we'd hide things in his suitcase or things just to kind of make it seem a little bit closer, so that's the impetus for...
That became the pain point. The pain point was show you care when you can't be there. How do you actually reach out asynchronously to people when you can't actually be there, but actually have them feel the empathy that you have for them, the compassion you have for them in that moment, and use that as a way to stay connected.
Yeah, absolutely.
So John, very familiar with mobile apps and stuff like that. We created a mobile app, and I would say it was kind of like Hallmark meets Venmo and Pokemon Go.
Okay.
I mean, it was just super easy for me to understand it from that perspective, because the Hallmark part was your own personalized message to that person you're thinking about. And then the Pokemon Go, you would choose a location that person was likely to go to, because y'all had that kind of shared experience. And then you would add a gift, kind of like, I'm buying your coffee or I'm buying your drink. And then once it was sent, they're notified right away, hey, Cherie's created a Koya for you in, say, Austin, good luck finding it. And if I had set that Koya up for you, Cory, at, say, Thunderbird Coffee, it wouldn't be until you got to that Thunderbird Coffee that you'd be notified that you actually received it. But
so, okay, so what? So I there's an area that I go to explore. Is that kind of what you want me to do, or what's the?
It's not changing your behavior at all.
Oh, I'm going to Thunderbird.
Yeah, I know that it's the place that you likely go to, because we have that relationship.
And then I walk in there, and then it just
as soon as you walk in, you get either a text or a push note, or both. You get both. And you got a message. You found that you discovered a Koya from Cherie.
Very
Tap
cool.
to see what it is, and you'd see the video. She could have made it yesterday. She could have made it 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But you're now walking in, and then money would transfer from her PayPal or Venmo into your account to cover the cost of the coffee.
Yeah.
Very cool. So that was it. That's what we came up with as the we could all agree how important it was to kind of create this, if you will, gamified connection capability.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, so that's when everybody said, okay, we're on board. We're going to go do this.
And it was consumer focusing, which was near and dear to our hearts, because we wanted to be part of helping in the loneliness crisis. We called it relational poverty, in that, I mean, it was something that a lot of folks were struggling with at the time. And so that's what we started off doing. And you have to grow this big user base, which was really hard to do.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, so.
Well, I'd say, like, when John was building Bones in Motion, it was probably way harder to build the technology and the easier side was the marketing, just because there wasn't who else is doing running apps, and now it's like it's a lot easier to build technology, and now you got to market the
exactly.
It really was, and there was a lot of other headwinds that we hadn't anticipated. Again, had we known some of the headwinds, we probably wouldn't have gone down this path. We created something that people really enjoyed.
Yeah.
However, everybody, and the way we architected it, everybody had to have the app in order for it to work, the sender and the receiver.
Which is a good and bad thing, growth, but also, the burden for sure. Yeah.
And so we were in the middle of testing it all throughout summer of 19. We finally had a version that we could share with beta testers in the summer of 19. And we were going into gearing up for our big launch at South by in 2020.
Oh, nice. Classic.
Yeah, classic. Us and everybody else.
Oh, that was in March, too. So that's like,
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And we were using locations. So, like, we were, our last big trip was to Israel, and we were over there testing the app to make sure that the location part of it was working wherever.
Because that was the idea.
Right. And it was. Everything was working well. So
a convention in March is the worst. In 2020 is the worst time to launch a meetup.
Well, prior to that, though, there was something even bigger that happened. That was
with Apple.
Yeah, with Apple, because we were using location. I mean, you had to have location on if you wanted to receive the gift. If you didn't have it on, then when you walked into
you wouldn't get notified.
You wouldn't get notified.
And it used to be cool.
Oh yeah. There
were a lot of good apps that were using GPS to in a good way. However, there have been some bad actors that were putting location into their apps that had no business putting location, and they were just purely tracking you and selling that data.
Of course, yeah.
And so Apple, wanting to put an end to that, and so what they did was they kind of went on the pendulum swung, and it's like, hey, you know what? We're going to tell the consumers every app that's using location, and we're going to say how many times it was used. It was almost like I don't know if you've ever seen this.
It's aggressive.
Yeah, it's pretty aggressive. You look at it and you're like, whoa! It's like I didn't know that app was. Do you still want to let that app see your location ever? Yeah. And it's like us telling. We already had a learning thing. We had to get people to remember. To use the app to send and do things, but then now we had to educate them on, hey, you know what? We're one of the good actors in the location space. We're actually doing this, but we're not tracking you. We're not selling your data. We had to keep on saying what we're not doing, versus just talking about all the cool things we were doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that became actually a big marketing issue for us.
No, that's super tough. I mean, so do you guys pivot to B2B then, or like what's the are you still doing that same concept, or where do you go?
No, so we let that run for a little bit during the pandemic. Obviously nobody's going out and having coffee or going anywhere really. Yeah. So the app just kind of sat in the app store and just kind of languished.
However, we had folks who found themselves, couples found themselves in different locations, and that ended up being our target.
Long distance relationships.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah. And so they were using it in kind of creative ways of setting up things for the other person.
Little scavenger hunts or something like that.
Because, again, it's about knowing the individual.
Yeah, one was in Canada, one was in London, and so they would, I remember there was a Valentine's Day, and they created all these little places that were hidden in London.
Very cool.
She would go to those places starting in the morning and see a message from, because now the time zone, right? So all that stuff played into. He set up everything the day before or whatever. So it just kind of. She ended up having a great day with him, even though she couldn't be with him.
Yeah. I love that.
But we
we'll go back to that. By the way, we're not leaving this idea alone.
Yeah.
So we held on though as long as we could, and then COVID happened. We were planning during South by to kind of appeal to those that were gamers. And
Ready Player One.
Yeah. So
nice.
And
we call it Ready Player Fun.
Oh, nice.
And it's like, hey, let's go hide things. Use like Easter eggs that you're hiding for your friends. But then again, that was like South by 21, which was not a good South by either. Hardly anybody, I think, it was sparsely, or if anybody really attended. But we were sitting on, we had a lot of energy still. And it's like, everybody's kind of sitting at home trying to figure out what to do. So we took our video knowledge and our connection knowledge and said, hey, what if we just stand up a website that enabled anybody to give thanks to the frontline workers? So
cool.
we created something called Essentially Kind. And it wasn't to monetize or anything. It was just, hey,
something we could give back.
Something we could do. And while we're just waiting for this thing to pass over. And we tried that, and it really didn't get a lot of traction. The idea and the heart behind it was there, but it did give us some insights about location, about the power of video and the messaging.
Isn't FedEx doing that now, or is it like UPS or something like that?
Somebody probably. They should, because it's a great. I think I would imagine if you're a frontline worker and you have all these videos thanking you for all the selfless things you're doing, that would make you feel good.
I swear it was UPS, Amazon, or FedEx or something like that. They did a thing where you could pay the person and also send a thank you video or something like that. So again, another idea you guys had first. There you go. Yeah.
Still, we liked the idea. It didn't take off like we thought it would. And then we did pivot from to B2B. So we always knew we were going to do something in the B2B space, but it was going to be further down the road after we got the B2C stuff squared away. We were going to figure out ways to bring brands and other businesses into the experience. And so it just fast-tracked it, and we just went right to, okay, what can we do? What can we do for businesses? They already have, now that people are working from home, they're not having face-to-face meetings with customers just because of everything, what the pandemic did. It's like, let's figure out a way, an experience that will allow you to create one-to-one videos that would have a gift associated with it. Remove the location friction for now. Remove the need to even have an app. And make it super easy for you just to express gratitude and thanks to your employees, colleagues, and your customers.
And is that on like a per transaction or like a subscription? Like how does that work for the business?
So we have a freemium model that allows you to just send and use it for free as long as you want, as long as it has a gift card associated with it, and we make a little bit on the gift card.
Nice.
And then there's a subscription model that allows you to then brand the experience, so that when somebody receives a Koya from you, it's got your email address, it's got your branding, it's a white label version basically of the service. And you don't always have to have a gift card associated with it. It could be a call to action. Hey, there's this new feature in our app. Want you to know about it. Click the link below and then check it out.
Very cool. Yeah. And how does this all tie into Fiesta? Because you have the Fiesta groups that, I don't know if you both run it or you run it or however it works, but
we all do everything. So I mean, some
do I run it? I don't know.
Yeah.
You can if you want. We need some help.
There we go.
Hey, I've tried to recruit you for a long time.
I don't know what you need me for. Whenever I go to your events, I can't even get in the door. There's so many freaking people there.
Likewise.
Like, Cory, bring more people, Cory. I'm like, where are they going to stand? I don't know.
Figure out that.
You need a bigger line? I don't know. Like, what are we doing? So we'll cover Fiesta really quick, and then we'll talk about how they tie
there's an integration.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so during COVID, I was doing Lunch Club, and I had like over 150 calls.
Which Lunch Club?
Oh, like Lunch. Okay,
Lunch Club. The platform where they paired you with somebody.
I actually randomly know the founder of that. He sponsored one of my events before COVID. Actually, I have a Venmo of like, it's like, I think he sent me $500 to sponsor it, and then he showed up to the event, and then he left in like 5 minutes and didn't say bye, and I was like, all right, dude, like whatever. But early Lunch.
What was his name? Vigor.
It's like Vlad or something. Vlad.
Like that.
Yeah, I have a random little Venmo from him. I don't know how they're doing now. It was way better before COVID, though.
Yeah, I think what happened was, I mean, when you couldn't get out and about, that was a connection, and then when. I mean, for me, what happened was once I could be out in real life, I mean, that was priority versus meeting somebody new. I'd rather meet you in person than meet you online. So anyway, but those folks that I talked to that had moved to Austin, I mean, I kept seeing this trend. There were so many people moving to Austin, and a lot of them were startup founders, and a lot of them were coming from California, New York, Chicago, Colorado. Those were the big areas and stuff. And John and I moved a lot early on, and I just remember the difficulty of moving, but to move during a pandemic, and to be doing a startup, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. How can I support you? And so for some of those couples, we'd have them over for dinner because you could do small gatherings, you couldn't do large gatherings, and then I think...
And we did them in the backyard initially.
Yeah, well, and actually we had the whole lunch club team over.
Vlad was over for dinner.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that was for Cinco de Mayo in 2021.
Okay.
They were all in town doing some kind of experience, off-site type of meeting.
Gotcha.
And they actually became the first sponsor of Fiesta.
Oh, we both have been sponsored by
I know. Love that.
very, very funny.
Yeah. And so... So that was kind of the heart behind it was as soon as things started opening up in July of 2021, I reached back out to everybody that I had met that had moved to Austin because I had their emails and said, hey, let's meet over at Easy Tiger. Yeah. And we had about 37 people show up. Nice. And then I thought, I'll just do this on a monthly basis. I enjoyed gathering people together, and I
couldn't do it there though because they were like wanting to charge us.
Okay, I was about to go on an Easy Tiger rant. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Can I do a quick Easy Tiger story?
Yeah.
So my first beer pong tournament, right? It was very stressful. Tech beer pong tournament, to clarify, it's not like just a bunch of frat people. But first tech beer pong tournament, I was gonna do it at Easy Tiger. So this was summer 2020, so like May, springish. 2021. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. Yeah,
nothing was going on in 2020.
Yeah. So. August 2021, like I call Easy Tiger, I'm like weeks into calls, and she's like, yeah, we'll do it for, $4K plus like, I think 20% tip plus something else. Like the total number was going to be about 5 to 6K. And I was okay with that. I was fine with that. And we're a week out from this event. And I'm going into the email and I'm emailing back and forth about like pricing. I'm like, I'm going to pay her with, this ticket sales. And then I see this little link in her footer and it says contract. And I was like, I've never seen that contract before. And I click on it and it says $10,000 plus 20%. And I call her immediately and I'm like, what is this? And she's like, that's what we agreed on. I was like, I never would ever pay you, because it was going to be on their outdoor patio.
Yeah.
And we weren't even going to get the whole thing. We were going to get half of it. And we had to like still pay for drinks. And I was like, why would I ever give you $10,000? We never mentioned that. And she's like, well, that's what the rate is. I'm sorry, to get half of our patio on a Saturday. That's what we would sell in drinks for half the patio. I'm like, you're not going to do $10,000 in 4 hours and on half a patio. Anyways, so I've never hosted an event there again. I was so annoyed by their management. So anyways.
No, same thing with us. I mean, we did that one event and they kept wanting to nickel and dime us, and I'm like,
even though people are buying drinks.
Yeah, we were outside and we had a little picnic table and
multiple.
Stuff like
I think we had 5 picnic tables, so it wasn't that big. It was only 37 people, right?
Yeah.
And we just got there early and we just held them.
Yeah.
That's what we ended up not. It's like we just kind of
nice. You still kept going. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Just we only did it once there though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
Because then they said, hey, next time.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to pay for this.
Damn. Well, I mean, as long as you're buying drinks, I feel like you should be able to, this show. It's an outdoor patio. What do you like?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways.
Yeah, wait, so lesson learned, you just go ahead and do it and then ask for forgiveness afterwards is what I hear.
Exactly. Thankfully, Lester Pearl East at the last minute took over let me do my tournament there for free. So,
nice.
Yeah, so they were so kind, and I was just like, oh my God, this is such a relief. So,
yeah, and then, the cool thing about it is those are the places you go back to when you promote. So, I mean, and in this industry, I think that's the thing that I've learned is that if you're giving and your heart is in the right place, people tend to come alongside and you're lifting each other up. So.
I've hosted 2 happy hours there since. The management's all great. I'm just like, thank you guys for not. Although I do like working at Easy Tiger East now. I hate my life, but like it's like no one's in there. You got this big screen TV, and so anyways, so one other story. All right, so you did your first happy hour at Easy Tiger East. Where did you kind of go from there?
Well, so there was a meetup group that we had been part of, and they were disbanding
prior to
COVID.
Gotcha,
yeah.
Okay.
And it was a group that you'd meet, and 3 companies would pitch, and then they got a lot of feedback. And that wasn't the style that I was going after, but I thought, I'll just take over the group. I think they had like right at 1,000 members. And I thought, I'll get 1,000 members.
People were showing up, maybe 20 people, maybe 20, 25 people show up.
The meetup.
Yeah, they just had
really bad.
It is. So
that had been going on for like 7 years. So
it
took them 7 years to get to 1,000.
Yeah. So then we just decided to meet at Capital Factory. They gave us a space. Have been one of our sponsors, and I think for me, it was about consistency, like picking and doing things on the same date. So it was always the third Tuesday. It was always at the same time. Made it easier for people who you met out and that were new to Austin, that you could easily say, hey, there's this Fiesta thing going on. It happens once a month on the third Tuesday of the month. 5:30 to 8:30 over at Capital Factory. I mean, it was just, people became the marketing for us. And, the name Fiesta stands for Founders, Investors, Entrepreneurs, Startups, Techies, and Austin Newcomers. Super inclusive, because I wanted it to be inclusive.
I didn't know it's actually no. I just saw the abbreviation. I thought it just meant like party, like this band. But
that too.
I mean, it's
double entendre.
Wait, how your first Capital Factory event? How many people did you have there?
We just consistently grew. So for that one, I think we had 57. So we increased by 30, and then
it wasn't in Voltron. It was in the
upstairs.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then we just continued to increase, and I think part of it is word of mouth, people being out and about, and then creating the calendar. I think that ended up being such a sticky thing. A lot of people were sharing the calendar with other people, saying, "Oh my gosh, you can find all the events in one place."
Yeah, you have the Slack channel and everything.
Then, but what's interesting is none of that started until South by last year. So
22.
In 22, because we had the CEO of Meetup coming to speak at South by. They had reached out to me to be on their podcast for Thanksgiving of 2021, because we were one of the few groups that were meeting in person
and growing.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
And so, because when I look back, I'm like, you want me on your podcast? I mean, like, and he's like, yeah, I'm like, we're amazed at what you're doing and stuff. And it ended up being a lot of fun. But then he came to Austin for South by and spoke at our event, and that drew a lot of people.
I think that was our first event that we were over 300.
Yeah, that was the first time.
Well, what are you at now? If that was over 3, I mean, because I feel like
I'm always hesitant to say, but our last event we had 350 check-in.
Yeah, so that's not all there at the same time.
Of course.
They kind of come
I'm
and
sure
go.
it's below
the fire marshals
requirements. We never go above whatever the fire marshals.
Whatever that number is.
Whatever that number is.
It could be 200. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so. It's been a lot of fun, and because we were consistent, then the biggest pain point I have, and you have the same pain point, I'm sure, is that you have all these people RSVPing that they're coming, and then I mean, like on Meetup, it's like 30% of them show up, and then I started using Eventbrite, and it's the same thing. I mean, and so I would just always come home and gripe about the fact that it's like, gosh, these people didn't show up, but then I saw them on photos, because we had, I take pictures, and I'm like, they were there, and they were there, but they weren't signing in.
Oh, gotcha.
And I found out that like we were having like 100 and something people showing up that never signed up. And so Jordan, for my birthday last year in May 30th, they came up with this app. Well, not an app. It's a
Jordan does a full stack development.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So to help with the check-in process. So we then started just checking people in at the door, so that we could collect the data that sponsors would probably want, and then just know who we were serving and stuff like that. And as we were coming out of the year, I mean, we got a lot of interest from other people, like, hey, what is this check-in system? This is so cool. And it's about educating, because you scan a QR code and you fill in your information, like connect to your LinkedIn or your Twitter, and then it would print out a name badge. And so as you're networking at the event, I could scan your QR code on your name badge, and it would connect us. And then afterwards, I could go back and see everybody that was at the event. And if there was somebody that was there that I didn't get to meet, but I look at their profile and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to reach out to them. You have that as a starting point to say, hey, we were both at Fiesta in January. And so we're now for South by, I think we have 2 or 3 groups that are going to actually use the software.
Very cool.
And so that, I mean, Koya is kind of turning into that. And I mean, like, I'm passionate because it really does go back to the whole heart of why we're doing what we're doing, which is about helping people meaningfully connect.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we would like to be able to kind of be the next Meetup, platform or Eventbrite. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, but
well, how does Koya tie into Fiesta then? Like, where's
Koya will still stay as the communication capability. So the video along with the gifting, we'll add that capability. So if you meet somebody at a Fiesta event, post-event, you'll be able to send them a Koya.
Very cool.
You'll be able to send a Koya even without knowing any of their
nice
credentials or anything. So it's not like you're giving away any personal information, but you can still say, hey, we met, or I would have liked to have met you, and then now you have a personal invitation to reach out or follow up.
Or even like, thanks for the pitch help during the meetup. Here's a $10 Starbucks gift card.
Or the sponsors, whoever sponsors, they get access to Koya to be able to send messages to all the attendees saying, hey, you know what? Thanks for coming out. Whatever they want to do.
Drop in $5.
Yeah, here's a little Starbucks. Discount. Here's a little discount to our software if they sell software services.
You're good.
About that.
You're good. Yeah. We just kick the cameras all the time.
Yeah. But I think more importantly, because of my upbringing and some of the stuff that I've struggled with, I've always had such a high value for making sure that people felt like they were seen and a place of belonging. And so how I really plan on utilizing Koya is eventually when you come to your first event, you'll get a Koya just saying, hey, thanks for coming to Fiesta. Cool. It was great.
Would that be location based then, or how would you?
No, because we know that.
You scan it,
Cool. And then after you've come 3 times, 6 times, something like that, this cadence just reminding people like, hey, we see you. And I think that adds value. And I mean, when I started Fiesta, the heart behind it was like Southern hospitality. I mean, I can't have everybody into my home. But I wanted people to feel like they were coming into my home, sort of. For sure. And so when we do our events, we always serve pizza and food there as you would if you were inviting somebody in, and then just trying and help people connect and network and find the resources. I mean, everything that I do for Fiesta is really focused on the founder and helping them find where they need to go and the resources that are going to help them on their journey, because it looks different for all of us.
Yeah. So, and it gives them an opportunity, it gives founders an opportunity to get up in front of 300 people and do a 1-minute pitch. It's like, that's a pretty good, if you're not used to being in front of a lot of people, that's a great way to get rid of this anxiety and fear and and get confident. And what's really unique, and this is the most telling thing about Fiesta, I think, it's a 3-hour event. 5:30 to 8:30. 8:30, we're having to kick people out. You would think 3 hours is like everybody's gone. It's kind of dwindled down to nothing. We have to go. Hey, come on, guys! It's time. We got to shut the door.
No matter what you do, they're always like, oh yeah, and then they're like texting somebody, and then like the 18th time, they're like, no, seriously, get the fuck out.
You gotta get out.
It's like that would be on Tuesday.
We love you to stay, but you gotta get out.
I told people like 8 times. I'm like, guys, it's like 30 minutes since I've told you, and they're like, oh, okay, right, okay. And I'm like, you haven't even called your Uber yet. I'm like, it's like I don't want to be here.
I'm ready to go. It's been a long day. Exactly. I mean, my event didn't begin at 5:30. I mean, I've been preparing for it all day long.
Exactly. Yeah, it's always a process. Maybe we should do a Lester Pearl East event. Just take it over.
That'd be fun.
Really fun. I love those guys so much.
Yeah.
And you can fit more than 350 there.
Oh, nice.
Can you really?
Nice.
Well, I mean, it's a big outdoor space.
Oh, yeah.
So we would probably just take
they have that little house over there.
Yeah. I've done the house a couple times, but like we take over the whole situation. I forgot we were on a podcast for a second, to be honest. I totally forgot. I was just like talking about Lester Pearl East. But anyways, we're at almost 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
It's my longest podcast so
we
far.
We talked about 3 different things.
We talked about a lot of things. But the Bones in Motion story is so incredible, and then Koya is an awesome product, and Fiesta, obviously, you're crushing those events. So, I think we've covered a lot of things. What should the listeners do if they've made it to 2 hours? If you're still listening,
you might want to break it up.
Yeah. So go to Fiesta, sign up for Koya.
Go to Fiesta for sure. I mean, that's one of the things we lament about is that, hey, when we started Koya. We didn't get plugged back into the Austin startup scene right away. We kind of, hey, been there, done that, sold a company. We can go figure this out. And we lost 2 years of networking, especially if you add the pandemic in there, right? Where we could have been more in a place where other founders are, other investors are, just other people in that are willing to help, or that we could be helping, we just lost that time. And I think if the biggest advice I would give anybody, and we do today, is, hey, get plugged in.
Yeah, for sure.
Figure out, because the opportunities that we've been getting now, before, we're not raising money, but before we were like, it's like pulling teeth trying to get warm intros to Capital.
Yeah.
Now it's like we're walked into Capital all the time, and we don't want it. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But it's just a natural thing. People want to help. They see what you're doing, and it's like, you're not asking for anything, you're giving. You know what? I think I can help you. And
yeah. I mean, Fiesta.community. So, I mean, and it's not .com, it's .community. So, because a lot of people are like, I went out there, it didn't work. And then, I mean, again, it's not about Fiesta. It's about you as a founder finding what's going to help your trajectory. So use a calendar, find events to go to, get plugged into the community. If you need anything, reach out to somebody and ask. I mean, I think Austin is probably one of the most unique towns to be doing a startup in, because people literally will give you the shirt off their back for the most part.
100%.
Yeah. So, I mean, I hear it over and over, and I think that's what just is a joy to do what we're doing.
if you're watching this, you're not in the Austin area, and you think your community could use a Fiesta, reach out, because we're trying to figure out how we could expand the network.
I was just gonna say, like, you do little satellite Austin. Fiestas. I like that. Sweet. Yeah, some campus reps. There we go. Awesome, guys. Well, it was such a pleasure.
Thanks.
Again, I'm so hungry and tired at this point now. It's my second podcast today. I'm like,
my God.
But this was. I was excited to interview you guys a few months ago, and obviously both stories are so cool. So that's why we strive. Thank you guys.
Hey,
appreciate you guys coming on. Thank you.
Yeah.
There you go.
Totally.
I wanted to thank you for watching this entire episode of Why We Strive. Be sure you head to whywestrive.com and subscribe, so every Tuesday you can see incredible interviews with some of the best tech founders, investors, and creatives in the industry. Have an amazing day, and don't forget to keep striving.